My name is Otto Niels. I'm a member of the Dorsey Art Gallery. We're having an exhibition called Women's World No. 5. This is an exhibition of 4 wonderful artists: Patricia Brintle, Linda Hiwot, Vivian and Deborah Singletaary. This work will be on exhibit until October 29th. Come out and see it from 3 until 8. Make sure you come out and see this wonderful show.
Give me the money. Tell them who you are.
Linda Hiwot.
Where's your wallet?
Right over there.
Yes.
My name is Patricia Brintle, and these are my work, and there's some in front also.
Hey!
And I'm Vivian, and this is my work, and the piece at the entrance of the gallery is mine as well.
If you have any questions, those are the ladies that you ask the questions. If you want to know who to get the money to, come to me.
I'll take money.
And thank you very much for coming.
Yes.
I'm Bell Bay, and I'm on the board of the Dorsey Art Gallery. And I was wondering if anybody in the audience have any questions for the artists before they step down off their pedestals. Anybody have any questions? Hearing none. I guess this session is closed.
Okay, but we do want
Is there
to
anything that you would like to say?
share with us. I think it would be nice to share something each of you have. Do you mind doing that?
Okay, I'll share something. I get the question, many people have asked me why my artwork is mostly with silhouettes. And I explained that I have a piece on the other side which is a portrait. And when I make a portrait, the viewer is stuck with that face. You cannot change that face. You're stuck with that nose, that eye, that mouth. You're stuck with the face. Whereas in putting a silhouette, there is a story that's engendered by the work that the viewer can get into. So you can go into the story of the painting, and it becomes a little more personal for the viewer.
Oh, you have a question?
Good evening. My name is Natasha, and I have a question for Ms. Deborah. What was your motivation for the third piece? The piece depicting the beautiful woman in the white, adorned in the white, and approaching the young lady. What was your motivation for that piece?
And the name of this is Study War No More. So it's the urban and the idea that we can do our battle with managing our emotions rather than trying to exert our power onto the other.
So may I tell you what I thought about the piece?
Sure, because what you think is probably more right.
Well, no, you make the art, so I'm blessed to see it, and thank you very much for that definition of what you made. I saw a woman, a queen mother, depicting her wisdom unto the young woman, and the young woman going on her journey and embarking on the world and the universe and what they have to offer. So I thank you for that.
And that's what it is. I once had a dream where I was told, somebody in the dream told me what they thought a painting meant, and I told them they were wrong. And the dream said to me, that it's my images come from the divine and I have no more ownership over the meaning than anybody else. So I will be telling that story in the future. I like that better.
Oh, I have a question for you. I got about 10 questions. Does this have anything to do with Congo, or can you give us a little thing about your magic wand?
First of all, this is the first show that anybody's ever wanted me a high chair. I'm having trouble getting onto it. So, you will recognize the wands from many spiritual traditions. Native American, African, Asian. I call these the word wands, and they are created as reminders that the words we speak are like messengers to the divine. And so it is important that we manage our emotions even through our speech. So it's also evolved as a workshop. I wanted to do workshops for people who maybe didn't think of themselves as artists. I figured everyone could decorate sticks, and then I found that I like them. But I also use them in ceremonies, and I'm an astrologer. And before I have my clients, I do a ritual with the word wands to center me.
I ask a question? I was very impressed by your piece there with the dragon, because I do similar fantasy type pictures with warriors battling demons and monsters. So I want to know, like, what was your idea behind that?
The idea of that is that the demon, that when we are calling others demons, we are actually projecting our power onto the others. And so if I am in a tug of war with you, I can't imagine that be possible. You're so wonderful. But if I'm in a tug of war with you and I say you are and I point to you, it is actually aspects of myself within you that I am struggling with. And so that dragon represents the shadow self. However, the shadow self is not always negative. And often we think, oh, that's my shadow self, how shameful. Sometimes our shadow selves are our power. And so the idea of that is it is her own power that she is meeting. And so that sword is in a sense the sword of truth that she's going to use to get in touch with her own power.
I have a question for Linda. Linda, your work has a lot of half circles or circles in it. What is that? Is that the moon rising? What is that? Is that a harmony you have in your work? The roundness?
I'm sorry, but I can't really give you an answer for that. It's just an image that comes to me.
And I have one also. So
yes?
I have a question. Yeah, so this one has something to do with I noticed a change because I've been watching your work over the years. So I noticed a change in the way you're working now. It's flatter, less three-dimensional. So to what do you attribute the change? If you have an explanation for that, because I know sometimes just now you didn't have an explanation for that other question.
Well, I mean, I think all artists change.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of it. And it's different inspirations that I have. I mean, a lot of these pieces are pieces that they're not the latest pieces, but it's just something that happens. I mean, I when I first started, I was doing mostly representational types of pieces, and it's come to this. I mean, the closest to representational is this piece right here. You know, and that figure is actually a picture of me swimming.
Okay.
And I changed the whole thing into lines. That was an underwater photograph.
Wow.
So that's how that happened.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah. And I like to put curtains around things, and I don't know why.
Right. Yeah, because I noticed the drapery is still there.
Yeah.
So actually,
I mean, maybe it's because when I started out, I was very interested in fashion design.
Okay.
You know, maybe
Next
that.
step.
You know, who knows where these images come from?
Yeah.
I do.
You know?
I have a question for you. What inspires you? What's your inspiration? What fuels you?
My inspiration, I guess, is my spiritual life. That's where everything comes from. That and my dreams, because I have a very rich oniric life. So I represent situations, gatherings. Everything has to do with people, as you see. There are people in different situations. But the people that are represented are ancestors, our spirit, could be representations of Orisha, but it's trying to bring to this plane here, let's say this very concrete plane, the things that happen in the spirit world, and how we interact with spirit, how we interact with ancestors, how the cosmic forces of the Orishas, and other people call it, whatever they want to call it in their own culture, how that informs us, how that teaches us, how even aesthetically it gives us gifts, because when I'm to work, I'm before a blank sheet and things start to appear. I go with a heart feeling, I go with an intention, but these things start to present themselves to me, and I have to just catch them and ask them please to stay there for a minute so that I can really understand what they are. But that's what it is. It's the spirit world of the Orishas and of my subconscious. But always taking into account that there is a message for the community. Because through this, what I want to do is to show the things that work through us and with us, and to see what we're going to do with these forces, because we are here. This is our responsibility to create something here that is harmonious, that is respectful, that is beautiful, that it's a legacy that we're living as well and leaving for our children. So that is the purpose of them, to be like medicine bundles. That's what I would want them to be.
Well, I heard you say ancestor. We all know ancestor, but I hear you the word Orisha. They might not understand what Orisha is, who Orisha is. Can you tell us a little bit what you mean by Orisha?
I could only tell, let's say, from my understanding, because I know that everybody has an understanding of how spirit works in their lives. But for me, Orisha are the forces that fulfill the cosmos. The Orishas are the spirit of the elements, and the Orishas are the spirits of love, of intelligence, of fraternity, of pushing toward life with a commitment, of unconditional love, of nature, of all the elements. So in the Nigerian culture, let's say, Orishas were ancestors. They walked this earth, and afterwards, because of their, let's say, their character and their beauty and their magnificence, they became ancestors and informed everything else. Now, water has a force, fire has a force, the wind has a force. Everything that is alive that we see carries a spirit. And that is what it is to me.
I'll share.
So it's just that I wanted to. No, I know. I had a question for Deborah. But I just wanted to moderate this because I don't want us to be involved also in the work and look at it. I had a question for you, Deborah. Two questions though. One has to do with study, War No More, because as we were hanging that piece, people were singing the song. I didn't know of it because I don't know of that. And the second question has to do with the sticks. Explain the sticks to us.
Well, I
Too.
did.
Tell it again.
Which one? How do you feel about the stick?
Okay, so I'll tell you so I don't bore them.
Okay, talk about
But
study
they
one.
are word ones, and they are reminded that the words we speak are like messengers to the Orishas. And that they will give us what we speak. And so when we speak of ill health, then we often get more of it. When we worry about poverty, we're pointing to it, and we actually get more of it. And it seems only rational if your reality seems to be lacking something to focus on the lack, but it is the focus that creates. Just as when the artists focus on making this art, something comes out. So that's what they represent. And I'm going to lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside and going to study war in my own practice. I do not, I avoid watching television. No, that is not true, child. Just about the lie. Watching television, I do. I avoid the news, and if I'm looking at television and a certain image comes up with this man with this hair, I don't look at him. I will switch the channel or get up and go do something else, and I avoid inner dialogue, which is negative and against someone. So I become conscious that when I'm going, I'm washing the dishes, going, she got the nerve enough to step. That I know I am in a sense attacking, and that sword, whether people are in the room or not, that they can feel that. So we in a sense inform and give power to those people with whom we are at war. And so I avoid the study of war and focus on my own dynamic power.
Oh, can we give you ladies a big hand, please? A big hand.
And so I was saying that I'm here because of the graces of Brother Carl McIntosh. We participated in a show called Art Curian, Artists Who Speak for the Spirit. And it was a show where there were works of great format, and so that's where we met. My friend Ogundepoe Fayomi had invited me, had suggested that I participate at that show. And then lately I participated in a group show at St. Joseph's College. And after that show at St. Joseph's College, I was invited to participate here at Dorsey's, which is an incredible honor, because I know of the people that have been at Dorsey's, and they're incredible artists of incredible talents. I mean, African American artists that have been in the history books, you know, and Elizabeth Catlett and Otto Niels and so many other people. So it's a real privilege to be at Dorsey's today in this group show with another 3 female artists that are extraordinary. Deborah Singletaary, and then Patricia Brintle, and of course Linda Hiwot, with whom I had already been sharing the show at St. Joseph's College. So I just think that it's very fortunate that the work of every artist get to be seen, because one thing is to have the work with you, but if you create something that has a meaning. You want the world to see it. You want people to see it because it has a healing quality. Art has a healing quality, and especially the times that we're living in right now, we need all sorts of healing, whether it is through visual arts, through dance, through music, through poetry, through architecture, through food, any form of art. We need for it to live in the world so that we could get in touch with that spirit, with the spirit of beauty and harmony, and then we can conduct our lives likewise. Yes. My name is Vivian, and I'm going to speak a little about this piece. This piece is called The Graduation, and this piece is basically, it's a diptych. There are two drawings united, and the technique is ink and pencil. So it talks about a graduation, about moving from one, let's say, from one stage of your life to another, graduating from a stage of knowledge to another. So I use here archetypes from the Yoruba faith, but there are archetypes that can be, that can be found in many cultures of the world. So you have, at the left, you have Oshun with Osain and with Obatala, which is beauty, medicine, or the power of Ewe, and Obatala, which is the owner of dreams, of creativity, of the coolness of the head, and of peace. Then you find the spirit of Shango, which is represented by the feline that is almost like jumping into the picture, because Shango represents fatherhood. He represents also the drums. He represents joy, and he represents communication, diplomacy, and his element is fire. So he's jumping into this graduation over the fire with his double sword that is called Oshe, because it's the sword of the absolute truth. If you miss it from one side, you will always, let's say, contain it from the other side, or you can never cover the truth. The truth will always be known. Then you have another figure that is carrying a ball, and that is a ball of knowledge, almost like also precipitating in that frame of the graduation, because it's bringing the ball of knowledge, carrying it to pass it on. Then in the background there is a woman that has branches that come out of her head, and from those branches there are fruits, and from those fruits there are birds that come to feast from those fruits. So it's a representation of the female spirit, where she is always giving and opening to other possibilities. And in her chest she has a heart, but it's in the form of Sankofa, which is to learn from the past to create a better future. Then you find the bird that is always a messenger, a communicator. Then in the second panel, in the foreground, you find the owl that represents knowledge, and the owl has an hourglass representing time, that there is no time to waste. She has a graduation cap showing that she is a master, that she has mastered certain levels of knowledge, and she has these skates on her feet with wings, representing the fact that one must always move towards knowledge, towards acquiring knowledge in life and improving oneself. Then you find the frog on top of a soapbox, which represents the fake titles. He has a diploma in his hand, but he has a very long tongue. So it's people that talk a lot, but it's jive talk. There's nothing to be proud about. There's only this fake entitlement. Then on the right, on the far right, you find the initiate that is accompanied by the jubona, or the person that protects him or her while they are in that state of initiation, and they're taking patients out for a walk. Then you find this figure that has a camera, which is consciousness. Consciousness is taking a photograph of you. At all time, your consciousness knows what you are doing, and it is mirroring it back to you. And then elegba in front of that, which is opening or closing the paths. Then you find community in the back. You find also a dual figure, which is a double spirit. Then you find as well in the background, close to a tree, an elderly helping a youth, which is compassion and the knowledge and the compassion of experience of the elderly that come to assist the youth. Then you have a mother carrying a child on her back and with a ball representing life and representing, let's say, leisure, but also representing that which you have and you're going to pass on to others. And then you have a couple, you have the father with the child, and then you have another sort of elegba, a trickster figure that opens and closes the roads. And all of this is part of the continuous wheel in life and of the different graduations that we have or that we suffer from time to time, and that we are going to experience through our lifetime until we die, and even beyond our death. That's what it's all about.
Hello, my name is Patricia Brintle, and I'm one of the artists here at Dorsey's. I feel very fortunate that I was invited to participate at this show because the gallery is such a landmark in New York, and I'm very happy. I was born and raised in Haiti. My father is Haitian, my mother is French, and I cannot really remember a time when I was not either drawing something or painting something. So the art is something that I was born with. I love Haiti. I love my country. And even though I came here in 1964, and I am very grateful to the US for the advantages that I've encountered here, my home, Haiti, is my home. And this is where I get my inspiration. So every time I go to my studio and I pick up the brush, I go back to Haiti. And I believe that people can see that in the colors. I like vibrant colors, the reds, the yellows, the tallow blue. And most of my artwork will have some of those colors in it. I am self-taught, and as such I do not follow any school of thought or school of design, and subsequently my work is very varied. I dabble in abstract, and I dabble in representative, and so forth. I just let my Haitian muse take over, and I paint. very often when I start a painting, I do not really have any particular idea in mind, but the painting just evolves. There is a conversation that happens between the canvas and myself, and the painting happens. Many of my paintings show silhouettes, and I've been asked the reason why. It is because my work tells a story that may not be apparent at first. The viewer can get themselves in the story instead of having to be stuck, so to speak, with a face that they may not know. I love being an artist. I work full time, and I think that until my dying day, I will be painting. Again, I am very grateful to Dorsey for inviting me to do this show. Thank you.
They call me Deborah Singletaary. I am a mixed media artist. I started my career as a painter. There was a time in my life when I was giving an astrology reading and the person asked me what their calling was. And I looked at the chart and told them what it was. And at the end, they asked me, well, what's my calling? And then I understood that that person was out of touch with their heart's desire. And I said to the woman, your calling is that thing that you think you're too old to do. It's that thing that you think you don't have time and money for. And as I was talking, this heat rolls over my body. And I thought, it's that thing that you think you're not good enough to do. And I thought to myself, Deborah, you're good. You're really onto something. And right at that moment, something said to me, oh, Deborah, while you are reading her, read yourself. I gasped. I ushered the woman out of the room, and I sat on my chair, and I asked myself, what is it that I want to do that I'm afraid to do? What is it that I want to do that I think I'm too old to do? That I think I don't have enough talent to do? And oh, I knew. I wanted to be an artist. I was 32 years old, and I thought it was too late. I thought I was too old. And so I said to myself, you can't be an artist. But then because I knew I could not be authentic if I didn't do my art, I stopped reading altogether. Eventually, I began to paint, and I figured out that part of what was blocking me was the idea that I had to be a great artist. And so I thought, you need to take that great off. Go with being an artist. Better yet, paint like you did in the 3rd grade. And that was a revelation to me. I thought, I don't need to go to school. I don't need to study anatomy or positive or negative space. I don't need to study color therapy. Or color theory. I only need to come from my heart to paint as children paint, raw, with delight and with authenticity. And so I discovered that my interest was in telling stories, particularly the stories of my ancestors, or the story of my relatives, or the story of women of color. And so I began to paint stories that had many different meanings to them. They almost were like dream sequences. And then after years of painting, I wanted to share the art experience with others. But I understood how frightening making art can be for adults who think that they're not good enough. And so I came up with the idea of the multimedia. Well, of course, making multimedia art was not my discovery, but I discovered that if you put the materials out, the paints, the rocks, the shells, the twigs, the cowries, the trim, that people will on their own begin to compile a story. And so the word wands, which are in this exhibition, was designed for people to engage in the art process. It was designed for classes that people could enjoy if they had art experience or if they didn't have art experience. I just put the material out there, and then I discovered that I liked making those word wands, and I began to make them more and more often. But one of my favorite art experiences is in creating the three-dimensional tableaus or the assemblages. And I admit it's probably a holdover to my playing with dolls. It's probably a holdover from the days when I played with cutouts. But I love to take a figure and figure out how I'm going to decorate it and how I'm going to fit that figure into a story. But one of the pieces in this show is called The Rage Child. I created her as a way of getting in touch with the energy that I had within me that had been stuck as rage. I was taught that women should be nice, that women should be mannerly. And so I spent a great deal of my time cultivating myself as a nice person. And now I understand that nice is one of those ways that people denied their power. It certainly was a way that I denied my power. And I discovered that the opposite of nice isn't bad. The opposite of nice is authenticity. And we have to be able to express all of our energy. When our energy gets stuck, that's what makes it become anger. And so I created the Rage Child so that I could have a glimpse of myself as a child, angry and expressing energy that when I was coming up, I was not permitted to express. And one of the reasons that Rage Child is a little odd, because I was considered odd as a child. But another piece in the show is the tree spirit. There's a woman who lives in a tree, and that's more part of my fantasy. The idea that nature is alive, the idea that nature is welcoming to us. And yet there's another work of art that depicts a city scene and people traveling from the city to meet that natural part of themselves. And I don't think we really have to come out of the city to engage our natural selves. That artwork is actually symbolic, and the bridge in the piece is symbolic of bridging our cultivated selves with our wild selves, so that we can live from both energies. One of the newest pieces is an indoor scene where a woman is reading a book and her daughter is concerned that the woman is crying. And it's really something about the book, but the daughter may not understand that. And that expresses my love of reading. and the ways in which reading transforms our lives. It certainly saved my life to be a reader. And art is fun. I can't think of anything I'd rather do other than talk to you, other than be here at an opening, and which is fun. You know, it's fun to show your art, and it's fun to have to be in a position to be vulnerable and expose your inner self. In the painting Me and the Dragon Are One, I am addressing that part of me which might be warrior-like, which is angry. And to be able to say to people in public, yes, I have that side. And this is what I do to live well with that energy. This is what I do to live healthily with that energy. So much of my art I consider as the art of transformation. It is not just what you see on the wall, as much fun and lovely as it is. At least I hope the viewer thinks it's lovely. But mainly, it's making art is about what happens within me. I consider being an artist, oh my God, it's like living a love story. And making art is my spiritual path.
Yes, my name is Okambi Pounds. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, but I came to Brooklyn after I retired in 2010 at the invitation of Carl McIntyre. She invited me to the Dorsey Gallery, where I began my second career in the art world. And I was trained by Joseph Bay, Carl McIntyre, and the master artist, who is Otto Niels. Otto Niels introduced me to charcoal. He introduced me to watercolor. He introduced me to sculpting. And it's been a journey ever since. Here at Dorsey's Gallery, I enjoyed my journey in the art world. I produced a few pieces, showed a few pieces in various venues, but it's really been an educational blessing in not only exhibiting the art, but also in the introspection in the art coming out of me. I didn't know I had it in me. It was something that Dorsey's Gallery was able to draw out of me, which is really the definition of a true education. So I've been re-educated into the art world. I'm also a member of the Fulton Art Festival, and they're having their 60th anniversary this year. And thanks to the Fulton Art Festival, that they allow me to participate in that also.
My name is Angela Ettrick Brathwaite, also known as Nyla. I was born in Panama, Central America. And what got me most interested in art is that I used to observe my oldest brother as he practiced sketching back home. And I also got a lot of, what do you call it, feedback from my science teacher. It was my 5th grade science teacher who told me that she liked my illustrations, because she used to give us the opportunity to color, you know, any pictures that have to do with the particular unit that we were reading. And also later on, much later on, I started to figure out that we actually in my family have a very artistic strain. I have cousins who are artists, who are potters, who are painters. You know, I nearly met a distant cousin that came from Jamaica to the States, and he was a painter. His name is Melvin Ettrick. And so I didn't get a chance to meet him, but he met my other siblings, my older siblings. In any case, I've studied art, but I also, I'm a retired teacher now. And so when I taught, I didn't actually teach art because, well, I wasn't supposed to be teaching art. I taught general ed. And I will mention this because it's an important point that the reason I didn't go into teaching art is because I was told by someone while I was studying art, you know, whenever they cut the budget, they cut the arts. So I got a heads up from that, and I decided, well, I want to stay employed. And but what I ended up doing though was that across the curriculum, I would always have, or take the opportunity, better said, to include art in it. So I use art in math, I use art in science, I use art in social studies, I use art in history, you know, and of course in reading, because a lot of the reading lends to art, you know. So I would always have the students try to explore their own hidden talents, if you will. Some people already knew that they were pretty good, you know. So, and in a way I'm still doing that now. Volunteering at the libraries in my neighborhood to help people to explore their writing skills, explore, sharpen writing skills. Over the years, I have developed a lot of stories. I have about 10 stories, children's stories. They started because I was taking a course at Bank Street College, and there was a writing course, and so the teacher there asked us to just write what we know about. And so these memories of my travels with my parents, well, it was led by my dad, you know. These stories came to mind. It just flooded my brain. I decided that, you know, this would make pretty good children's stories. So I started with these 2 memoirs called Adventures with Dad. And so it's Adventures with Dad, and then Adventures with Dad, another story. So the two books are linked, and I illustrated them myself. And so then the stories started to come. I used lines from my mother. I used some story starters that I would sometimes go and visit my dad before he passed and ask him, you know, Dad, could you tell me something of your past that you thought was interesting? And he would give me a story. So unfortunately, he's not here to see these stories. But I'm working on publishing them, and God willing, they will be able to come out soon. The first one came out. The second one, the publisher is taking a long time to get out. But over the years, I've had various exhibits, you know, which I've enjoyed participating in. But I think my purpose here is to help other people to pull out of them what lies dormant, because I really think everybody is an artist of some sort. You know, I've also, speaking of that, I ended up also writing music along the way, so I have a lot of pieces. I also, because of my artistic exploration in schools, I've learned how to make jewelry, so I have that skill also. And who knows what's gonna come next, you know? But I am always listening in some way. Either I'm gonna get a tune, or I'm gonna get some kind of idea that should go on paper, or it should go on canvas, or, you know, there's always something coming through somewhere. So I'm enjoying the experience of being an artist. For one thing, art for me has been sort of a self-therapy because many of us go through things, or as people say, stuff, and rather than to sit in a corner and boil, or you know, I get it out in some form, you know, whichever form it comes. So that I found that art for me is like medicine, you know, and I wish that for everyone, that everyone could find the thing, the artistic mode that would allow them to express themselves. So as far as my medium, I ended up, I started out with, let's say, oils, because I really liked the way how oils, you can layer with oils, so I like that. I was also doing, what do you call them, geometric forms, abstracts. And then I switched from that, and I now do more natural scenes. I really love nature, so that plays a big part in my expression of art. And I'm using oils, and I use watercolors, and I use acrylic as well. And so it comes out, like I said, in whichever way. You know, I was telling someone that, just a few minutes ago actually, that the concept tells me what medium I should use. And so before it even gets on paper, the medium is telling me, not the medium, but the concept is telling me which medium I should use. So maybe while I have an oil drying or an oil is still in the process of being worked on, I'm working on a watercolor that I could do more quickly, but it could take a while too, you know, depending on what I am doing. But of course, acrylics, they also dry very fast. But I like watercolors and oils because you can layer with both. I noticed that when I started to work on the watercolors, as I started out with oils first, the watercolors, I started to say, well, I'm not a real watercolorist because watercolors are so light. But then, I don't know, it's just, I guess, the influence of the oils made me layer so much. I ended up making watercolors that are layered in colors, so they have a variety of tones and such. They're not too pastelish. I mean, sometimes, yes, but a lot of times it's the same method that I use for oils, I'm using with watercolors as well. So that works for me. And again, you know, on the positive end, again, I really, really encourage people to find a way to express themselves, whichever way that is. You know, that I am lucky, I feel I am lucky because I'm able to use illustrations, I'm able to write, you know, and with words and with music, and I think that in that sense I am really blessed, and I continue to open myself to the universe, because the universe is the place that I'm getting all of this information from. I don't get it from anywhere else. It's what I have inside, of course, my experiences, but it is all coming from the universe. I feel that I'm open to the universe, and people who want to find a way to express themselves, I think sometimes you have to spend more downtime to allow yourself to be open and hear and feel and see what the universe is expressing to you. And I wish that for everyone.
I'm Herb Bennett. I'm an artist, an architect, and living and working in Brooklyn for about 40 some odd years, being a part of a number of the galleries, of which the Dorsey Gallery is like the most interesting and stable institution for black art in our environment right now and in our community. And so I'm here to support the work of the 5 women who are being exhibited today, and it's a magnificent exhibition. So what happens in terms of work and promoting work and being part of a whole organization that is about the community, developing programs for kids and adults as well, is a very interesting and noble enterprise and opportunity for the community, which I support wholeheartedly. Now, my own personal work at this point is basically I'm an abstract painter and sculptor. The kinds of sculpture that I do is basically as-found sculpture, pretty much in the same genre as Mr. McIntosh. So we're sort of kindred spirits in that form of art. And also, as an architect, what I'm doing right now is basically promoting the idea of building communities, building creative communities where the whole idea of a kind of holistic approach to art, to living, lifestyles, and what have you, is something that we really need to be pursuing right now in light of some of the social, economic dynamics that are playing itself out now in our communities, where we have to basically empower ourselves and be about our own business in terms of that cohesion and that sort of unification that we need to have among ourselves and with our brothers and sisters, not only in the creative realms, but as well as professional disciplines and other kinds of life support systems that we all depend on. So that I think we live in a time of collaboration where culture, economics, social networking, all of the dynamics that make communities vibrant and instructional and useful with us again, and we need to really basically take advantage of that and support as many of these cultural organizations and their efforts as possible so that we can all be impacted by the results and the positive results that they tend to offer us in terms of any sort of community relationships that are lacking right now, as they are in some of our experiences, where we need to basically perhaps rely on more of a cultural identity in terms of the things that we see as value to us and basically focus on those, because we have to establish our own priorities and our own realities, because the general population doesn't necessarily address our needs. So if it is to be, it is up to us to kind of create our own destiny and to use our art and our culture and let that be a sort of economic agenda as well, to be able to afford the kinds of programming, the support, the lifestyle, the ability to basically move in a very cohesive, creative, and productive direction that is really the kind of impetus that is needed right now in our environment. So basically, visiting this exhibition is a kind of commitment to seeing some of that happen and sharing this knowledge and this information through this medium and getting the word out and getting people on board to understand some of the deeper and richer dynamics of what goes on in the art and in the art world at large, where we are not necessarily represented to the degree that we need to be, because we really can see that as an opportunity for us to just step up to the plate and sort of like create our own destiny and make sure that the things that we need to do for our communities, for our youth, for ourselves and our legacy, and pay homage to our ancestors who have paved the way for us, and many are still doing so. And before long, we will become ancestors as well. So what kind of legacy do we wish to see about the mark that we've made on our society, our culture, our community, I mean, I think that's just a moment of reflection that we can think about to put this all into context so we know exactly what and how to appreciate the value that presents to us. And not let this moment in history, which is a major shift that's taking place now, that we need to actually step up and take, in a way, responsibility for, so that we can do the things that we need to do that are unique to our culture, unique to our forms of expression, unique to our souls and our spirit and our legacy in the long run. So I wish you were here seeing this wonderful work. It's going to be up for a couple of weeks. So stop by and check out the Dorsey Gallery exhibitions and be part of the movement that's taking place in terms of the cultural scene or the opportunities that are nurturing something very special in our community right now in terms of the creative dynamic that we represent. Thank you for the time and the opportunity to share these views and ideas with you. Again, my name is Herb Bennett, and coming to you from the Dorsey's Gallery exhibition.